Hey, what's up, it's Richie, and today I show you guys how you can make a Prop Hunt Gamemode in Fortnite. And let's go into it. So the first thing you need, and I would say the most important thing you need, is the gun, which is called the Prop-O-Matic. And this thing is amazing because what you can do with this is you can right click on everything that is a prop. I will explain later what a prop is and what is not, and you will transform into that prop. You can do a couple things in this prop. You can, first of all, you can emote with this prop, so you can basically do every emote that you have in that prop. You also can lock it. That obviously depends on which console you're playing or which control. If you're playing on PC, so you're standing still. And you can taunt, which is a whistling sound effect, which obviously is made to confuse the hunters. So the other thing on how you can get out on the prop is, first of all, you can right click on the mouse. I don't know what it's on controller, but you can exit it and some button, or if you die you obviously will exit as well. So let's move on what props actually are and what you can transform into. So a prop is basically everything that is resizable. There's a few things that are resizable that is not prop, that is not transformable, and I will show you guys what it is. So obviously everything that is not resizable is not, you cannot transform into that. The other things are weapons. These are obviously not resizable, but you cannot transform into weapons as well. Devices, there are some devices that you can transform, but you cannot, there are some devices that you can resize, but you cannot transform into any device. You cannot transform any consumables, and you cannot transform into llamas and block chests. So these are block chests right here, and these are obviously llamas. You can though transform into normal chests and ammo crates. So if you want to do that, you can do that. So what are the basic rules for a prop hunt mode? Obviously, rules are your personal preference. If you want to have completely different rules, that is completely your thing. But some general rules that I can give you guys, that the prop team most likely is always bigger than the hunters team. That's to the fact that obviously if you have like only 2 props and like 15 hunters, the props are most likely to lose because they can shoot basically everything. Another rule which is very important is the hunters need some limitations. If you just let the hunters give them an RPG and let them spray 24/7 with that, obviously that's very unfair, and obviously that is not a fun game mode for the props. So things that you can do to limit the hunters is, for example, you could give them like, I will show you guys how you can set that up, by the way. You can give them a damage on if they shoot something. So for example, if they shoot this tree, they will get damage. Obviously if that tree is a player, then the player will die. So that's the kind of trade-off that you get. The other thing that is very important, and the most important rule that you probably need to do, is props need time to hide. And I will show you that how you can do that. So this is the spawn for the hunters, and it's very important to give the props time to hide, because if you just let the props, the hunters go into the same time with the props, obviously they will see how they transform into something that is not fun, and is not the the main point of the game. So what you want to do is you want to set up some kind of barrier that is time based. So how you can do that is, obviously you set a spawn for the hunters, and then you can set a trigger underneath that spawn, and as soon as the hunters spawn on that spawn, it will trigger something. It will trigger obviously the trigger. Well, that was a lot of triggers, but you know what I mean. So if they spawn, they're gonna trigger the trigger, and you can set this trigger to whatever you want. I've set it just for this example to 10 seconds. So as soon as they spawn on this trigger, the trigger will activate and will have a 10-second delay. So that means in 10 seconds, this trigger will trigger the wall that is going to go off. Obviously, that is a block, how's it called? A barrier. So that's a barrier. So you cannot walk through it, even though I can now. That's like just because we're on creative. And in 10 seconds, that barrier will disappear because of the trigger, and the hunters can go and search for the props. Obviously, that's completely your choice on how you want to, how long of a delay should that be, and you know, how it should be triggered. That's just an example. You can do it like this, but there are also some other ways. There's one downside to this, because if they spawn on here, it will not instantly trigger the trigger. So the second someone jumps, that will trigger or activate the trigger. And yeah, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of other ways. I maybe do a video on how to make some triggers for starting the game and all that kind of stuff. But you know, you can play around with yourself, and not with yourself, but play around with the triggers, and you know, do some cool stuff with it.